I'm going to be doing this right away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I miss Harvard. They
You normally do for meetings.
You ready for me?
That is short, isn't it?
That's what's a big power player like him.
It's so big though.
Yeah, he could move.
He must have done something the same way. He wasn't that tall, but he was so big.
Only you watch Weston play twice. They were interesting. He really moved the ball well. They moved without the ball. It's not just like dropping in the toes and everybody standing around.
It's been some close games.
Yeah, it was something last night that they first three teams in one right. So it must have been
Would you like to send me Would you like to send me
Yes, they did. It's not bad. For a while.
the winter time is
So I still think Villanova is going to go over by. I watched them adjust where they were playing a normal game.
That's the key. You got to
Against West Virginia, they just
That's fun.
I don't do anything from outside, so all of a sudden they're taking the game inside. Just very flexible. Good shooters. Don't miss the foul. Duke and Campbell, otherwise I would
Singing. Can't you come upstairs down? No.
successful Mike.
Well, not like Andy's intense.
They're not looking. Yeah. Better not open my office.
No, thanks, John. Okay.
Open the outside door.
Oh,
It's yours.
yeah.
It's
You don't
yours.
hear all your
And here's the piece.
all your
I gotta go to the ladies room downstairs so I can send you a contact in my office.
No, I know.
I don't think we want you to have a ladies'
Well, then the ladies who were sitting in my office, obviously had no place to go.
I think I used the bathroom downstairs, yeah.
The men.
Yeah.
Don't be using the women because you will get in trouble.
Yeah. Two on this floor.
use it at night after we release it.
You don't have access to you. Yeah, I know, they do have some other stuff. Yeah, you got back door in the back there, but the station's broken. Yeah, the trap. Rusted right out. One reservation, rusted right out. Well, they tried, but we had a cover in, but they were worried about the set. And so we talked to him, yeah, you don't know, I guess he has to go downstairs and set up the minutes, and he doesn't know what happened. Side. Oh, yeah. Will you stop? Right, have you access to your
Right now.
I'm getting petition size.
Also, if someone opens it and leaves it open, our people downstairs can't lock it. They're files. Unlock and then lock in 5 seconds after.
Oh, it does in the back?
But they can't.
And
They can't allow something that's open to be set. Yeah, their keys are set that way.
They can't get out.
So I'm like the master key for in case they can't lock it. They're locking it. No. Yes, day to day.
What did you say?
Differently than what we expected.
I always say I hate my chicken. Oh, man.
I'm gonna give the ladies the whether it's gonna work
Like within 5 minutes or like how it's for all the people that are sleeping right
Yeah.
That's running interference. Oh, yeah. Man, already. I heard it already. I suggested I'm not walking that far. And it's fun. Yeah.
Did you see it? Really? And my neighbor's
Signs are So we found out that we were going to do something about the last visit. It's very hard for me to that would help here with
So he said it's beyond the nutrition back at Monday. He said, what do you got now? The only thing is for me is something in that water. He's 2 years old. He told me he installed it.
Yeah. One is for me. Sticker. Does anybody Brody? Rich?
Sure.
Oh, you want to read one? Increases.
Take the yellow.
At you standing.
Thank you very much.
So I'll put it here as a central location. Right? Oh, you'll be fine. Let me know. Give me heads up.
Maybe just one more. Lunch before I walked up here. Dessert. Probably not from 9:30 to 9.
I think that
Generally speaking, generally speaking, kilowatt hours. She got another one for February. That's the 3 months. So that's about the average. I mean, that's better. And you can't tell me why you're not here. Tell me why. Yeah, she does. She was in
Yeah, over the spare.
I was going over.
That's what's going on. Nobody at home.
She did have to look at how much she
I think that's it for the main offer.
What's that?
I think that's it for the main offer.
Yeah.
I unplugged that in January. That's why I'm done. I should plug it back in. I will do that again. I'm not now, back in January.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Well, that's what she does.
We've got, information for you.
Thank you. What? Oh, yeah. What are you interesting today, John?
Now I'm having trouble at my house. It's not large.
Sometimes it's just tell me what you know. For sure.
Very economical.
Looking at everything but that. So, it's been like, great for my
But you know what I mean?
like,
Well, there might be more to that. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, I don't. I can't remember what it is. We're in a nice space. We have it down. Grab that from our health Which is like a team and yeah, like crappy meeting. I know, I saw that. I'm like, after the after actually, there's one that Cumberland Farms. Is it Cumberland Farms or Cumberland? Their seeds and their acres are awesome.
I think they're trying to buy
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Well, that's
Brownies. Like.
Neopost. I'm familiar with saying that not they're solid machines. They and when you start well, I mean, I'm sure they didn't
I know, I'm scared. If I'm like so, like I shit that up there, I'm like watching you talk to me. July 3rd.
got 4 pretty serious issues on the collective possession.
Sort of an anti-fire mentality. Weird.
He was entitled to eventually. Sandra said, "You don't do one more time."
I kind of feel for you. It's just sorry. It's sorry. No, I don't.
I just Gary was working He's just been knowing how far I know Jason called me.
Okay.
Like I say,
Today?
Rich Cummings, I thought he had quit. He said, I
Have you been there? I got
20 hours.
They are really good.
well, I said it to him this
I'm not going to go play that.
That's a small one.
Yeah.
You have a lawyer with it.
Well, we're taking up next.
Oh, with Ken's like, yeah.
Hey, we have 4 left.
I don't, I'm not sure.
Brad wants to. Chocolate.
Brad is adamant. No sweets.
No fun.
No cards. Very strict. Discipline. Nope. You keep saying it. You keep telling it every week.
No, that reminds me of what lived in the hallway.
He wants to drive us nuts.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
You hear it? Yeah. Go. Red Sox. Only girls are running I can't contact them. Well, there today they had to re-reform my any level if possible choice as long as you are you identify as that's how I perceive it. Walkers. We have walkers. We have run walkers. After me. It kept me moving. With the admission, I'm like, there's a beer at the end, so I'm getting it's a tradition. Not fully. Actually, I watched it last weekend. Huh? Yeah, I read it in the morning, but I tried my bike. Yeah. But it's not because it's run fast, I'm like, it's not good. I'm wearing a helmet, I'm with my leg, I'm like. Are you talking about make your hands clap? Hands clap. Oh! Terrible influence. I just don't know why, as I heard, send me one. All right, sorry, I tried to be here with it.
Bye, Sandra.
Bye.
Bye, Sandra.
Sandra.
They're for you.
Go down so fast, right?
Good.
You got about 100 people. Closing.
Like that is going to stay there.
What's O? What's O? Who owns what? Who owns what?
These guys, you didn't hear anything.
Peter in this Skype? Michelle? Is Peter in this Skype? Oh, wait.
The rabbi led it would go with one of
Yes. Just get good. Look at that pile of stuff.
So we begin, I'll call the meeting of Common Council order. We'll begin with the, oh, I'm sorry, did this again. I'd like to return from executive session. In executive session, we discussed an issue of potential land conveyance for the city of Plattsburgh. 3 litigation issues with regard to the Retirees Association, Article 7 litigation over property owned by McDonald's, and the Falcon Seaboard litigation. We discussed an issue involving an individual person, an employee of the city. So, having said that, may I ask you to share a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brian, how you doing with getting?
We're fine, I'm just waiting for him to answer, which he just did.
There he is, okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Counselor Armstrong? Here. Counselor Kelly?
Here.
Counselor Dowdle?
Here.
Counselor Ensel?
Here.
Counselor McFarland?
Here.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes. Here.
Thank you for indulging us so long in a relatively extended executive session. One of the things that we'll be dealing with in today's agenda that I'm looking forward to is a relatively long and extended litigation. Hopefully it's come to a conclusion today. I certainly thank the retirees for being willing to indulge us for so long. Obviously this has been going on for about 2 years now. It's been very painful for an awful lot of people, and I'm just grateful that we could finally settle this. I think we're settling this in the best interest of not only the taxpayers, but the retirees. In the recommendation that the council will be considering tonight, we'll be moving the retirees back to the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan that you initially were with a couple of years ago. We believe that's the right thing to do based on subsequent analysis that I embarked upon with Burnham and Associates shortly after taking office. And I'm also very appreciative of the retirees' willingness to work with us and come up with another drug provision a system that I hope and expect will fully represent your needs, but at the same time also provide some savings for taxpayers too. So this has been very long, very painful, very expensive for us all, and not the least of which the retirees, as you well know. I'm just grateful we can finally come to a conclusion with that as well. This is very complicated. It's a 29-page settlement, although I think about 15 pages of those are settlements from or signatures from the various parties involved. But I am willing to discuss further with the public, and I ask for your participation if you'd like to do a joint press conference and describing this to the public at some point. Obviously, there's a strong public interest in this, and I apologize that it all took so long. So thank you. That's the only comment I would like to make tonight.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on March 22nd, 2018 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the City Clerk's office.
Moved by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Councillor Dowdle. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the City of Plattsburgh for the week ending March 28th, 2018 in the amount of $435,728.90 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councillor Armstrong and seconded by Councillor McFarland. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You see the regular reports in your package. Each week we have a separate committee that meets. This is a month where we've had 5 council meetings in the month, so we don't actually have a separate committee meeting before today. But I will ask you to update the members of the public on any subsequent actions of your committee, any expected meeting dates, any resolutions that may have flowed from your committee for today. Now let's begin with governance strategy and city operations. Councilor Kretzer, please.
So Councilor Armstrong and I had a very productive meeting about 2 weeks ago with some owners of local taxi cab livery companies, where it was conveyed to us that certain taxi companies would like to see a higher fare rate increase, especially the larger ones who invest a significant amount in infrastructure, software that goes along with having a large fleet of vehicles. Some of the owners that were there that had maybe only one vehicle said that it really wasn't something that they were interested in. So in the interest of trying to protect all their interests, we have decided to put forth an adjustment to the rate schedule for taxi fares, which would increase the minimum amount for any taxi rides. This is not something that is mandatory. I think maybe even the one large taxi company may be the only one who takes advantage of increasing their fares. So it's not a mandatory fare increase. It's something to do if they see that it works within their business model to be able to pass those extra fees on to their customers. So you'll see on the agenda tonight a resolution to approve this new taxi fare structure.
Josh, I asked how much of an increase it is.
It's $1. Sylvia, do you know off the top of your head? $1.50.
Thank you.
Yep.
And when was the last increase made?
2012, I believe.
2012.
Or 6 years ago. Thank you.
And both of everyone that was involved at the end of the meeting, they were all comfortable, the smaller cab companies and the larger cab companies, in having this increase. So I feel like it was a successful collaboration. Moving on to strategic planning software. Councilor Armstrong and I met with Brian Brayton this week, looking into different opportunities to utilize potentially additional modules of Munis, which is the software that we currently use for a lot of the city business, but also looking into OpenGov that has software available, and Brian's looking into any other comparable software models that, in essence, with better planning, becomes better increased opportunities for savings. So we're just getting some information from these different software providers, which will eventually turn into demos that we'll most likely look through and then kind of pass our recommendations on to the mayor and the council. Councilor Armstrong?
I'll discuss the parking study
Yes.
collaborations later on in the
Okay.
meeting.
That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of the governance committee?
Sure.
Last week I asked about forming an ethics committee, an ethics board, and was told it was referred to the governance committee.
We're working on it.
Okay. In what respect?
Trying to figure out best practices, looking to see what other models we could use, and then kind of collaborate with the council once we have a little more information.
Okay. Models such as what the county has, or like what the town has? Okay. And has that gone anywhere, or with the county?
We haven't made, there's no decisions have been made, and we're still working on it. If you have suggestions, please
Yes.
join the convo. Yeah.
There you are.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You're welcome.
Ask and you shall receive.
Okay.
Thank you. City infrastructure, Councilor Hensel.
I have no report at this time. We will be meeting once again, or I will be meeting with a couple of members of the infrastructure committee, hopefully next week, along with Dean, to discuss a matter involving flagpole and also some regarding the Meade Dam.
Thank you. Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly.
I don't have a specific report, but I do have one thing that is related to finance and budget, and that is that the Management Compensation Committee, consisting of Dale, Peter, and myself, have met extensively. We've shared our findings with our fellow counselors, and we finally come up with what we think is a very good management compensation package. We've asked our legal counsel, Dean, to put that into a resolution, and we will hopefully see that resolution on the agenda next week and vote on it. I would like to invite our existing managers to a meeting on Tuesday at 4:30 to discuss this new plan. Some members of our council do not feel as though it's appropriate to bring that up on the council floor without speaking to you first, and I agree with that. So if you can, please attend Tuesday at 4:30 right here, and we will discuss in detail the particulars of this new management compensation plan. Our goal was to make you whole. We hope when you walk out of this meeting that you will realize that your pay and benefits are changing, but they're basically the same at the bottom line. So that is our hope. So next Tuesday. And if you can't make Tuesday, we'll make another time, perhaps Wednesday, to discuss with people who can't make it. And I would ask Beth if she might send an invitation to all the department heads and managers, please, for next Tuesday at 4:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety, Councilor Dowdle?
Oh, really, no updates since last week. We'll meet again 4th Thursday of the month.
Public Library, Councilor Armstrong.
Yeah, there's a NEA Big Read, which will take place in April, and it's through a grant program administered by Julia Devine from the SUNY Plattsburgh Center for Community Engagement, and the outreach librarian at Plattsburgh Public Library is collaborating with Ms. Devine. I think you can go to the Plattsburgh Public Library link to the Big Read to find out more about that. They have a space that's been cleared for the maker space, and they'll be building 2 3D printers from kits purchased with grant funds from the Lake Placid Education Foundation. And so that's exciting news.
Thank you. I always cringe when you say the Big Read. It's about my weight gain. MLD, is there anything happening with electricity, Councilor McFarland?
Oh yes, we had our board meeting last Thursday after our council meeting. We only had one item on the agenda, and that was the First Light fiber pole attachment. I can also say that Mayor Reed has put together a group of people to discuss the Bitcoin mining operations, and they'll be meeting for the first time at the beginning of April.
Thank you. And you're on that committee, as well as, I see Matt Miller is on the committee, Joe McMahon, who else? I think one of the, Councilor Kelly are on that committee, as well as a number of people that represent the public. Well, Scott, our fire chief, is on the committee as well. Thank you. If that's the reports, resolve the reports as listed are hereby ordered, received, and any written reports are placed on file amongst the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Armstrong and seconded by Councilor Dowdle. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending March 30th, 2018 in the amount of $1,372,818.55 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Kretzer and seconded by Councilor Dowdle. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. This is an opportunity for any members of the public to please come and address the council on issues that are on the agenda tonight. There will be a subsequent public comment period at the end of the meeting for other issues of mutual concern as well, so agenda items only right now. So please come forward if you wish. Seeing none, let's continue.
Resolved that the settlement of the litigation between the Plattsburgh City Retirees Association and others as plaintiffs and the City of Plattsburgh as defendant currently pending in New York State Supreme Court for the County of Clinton Index number 2015-1625.
I'd like to make a motion to move the resolution, waive the reading and move the resolution.
Moved by Councilor Kretzner, second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion?
Actually, I'd like the resolution read myself.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
With
As
your
set forth
indulgence,
in
please.
Oh.
Yep.
the attached settlement agreement and order is hereby approved, and the mayor and corporation council are hereby authorized to execute the settlement agreement and order along with any and all documents necessary to effectuate the terms of the settlement, but such settlement agreement and order shall not be effective until signed by a justice of the New York State Supreme Court for the County of Clinton assigned to the matter.
Moved by Councilor Kelly and second by Councilor Kretzner. Discussion.
I just wanted to say that it was amazing that Beth picked up exactly where she left off. And
Doesn't this indeed?
truly amazing.
No, why do you think that's amazing?
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
No, I just had a question on on some of the words. The attached settlement agreement and order. So we're entering into an agreement, correct, with the Retirees Association?
Yeah, it's a term of art. This is a settlement agreement. The judge has to memorialize it, and that'll become an order once the judge signs it.
So we don't have to separate the two?
Separate the two.
Separate the settlement agreement and order?
No, the judge is so ordering the settlement agreement as settlement of the litigation.
Okay, and is there any dollar figure on where all this is going, or what is going to occur?
How do you mean, in what context?
Well, we're returning about a third, correct, of the retirees?
2/3.
2/3
Yes,
to
2/3.
Excellus? I mean, from Excellus to the
Blue
plan.
Cross.
Crossing out of Excellus and going back to traditional blue. 2/3 are still in blue.
Right.
Right.
Is there a dollar figure on that cost?
It's
'Cause
going
this
to
is-
cost less to go back to traditional blue than it would be to stay in Excellus.
But it's unbudgeted, is that correct? Is it budgeted?
Yes.
And what's it budgeted for? Do you know?
I don't know the exact number, but I know that we have a big number in for healthcare this year.
I think-
4.3 million for the general fund alone, close to 7 million total city, I believe.
So that took into account this,
No, that was under the assumption still at that point of the mix of individuals on Blue Cross and Excellus.
Right. But it was also based on the history that we've been seeing for the last few years, under budgeting healthcare costs by about 700,000 each year.
okay. But we don't have any written figures in front of us for this.
What's budgeted is the written figures, yeah.
Okay.
I can send that to you tomorrow.
I just feel that we should have them.
If you want individual numbers, an Excellus simply prescriptions plan, would have cost probably $575 a month per participant. Where staying in traditional blue would probably be $450 to $475 per month. So effectively $100 more per month per participant was going to be the additional cost for staying in the Excellus and Simply prescription plans.
And that was for 2/3 of the,
1/3, excuse me.
1/3 of the people, which
That
was
right.
roughly 71
71.
times
Is
rough.
what started, and I think it's finalized at 69 that are still there.
Times roughly $700, or I'm sorry, $100 per person per month, times $77,000 a month,
Times 12 months.
times 12 months, $84,000 a year in prescription savings,
Healthcare costs it.
healthcare cost savings.
Right.
Okay.
But we are doing a savings in prescription through the EGWP program.
That's a different ballgame altogether. That's a different drug subsidy sharing from the federal government. Instead of doing the retiree drug subsidy reporting and attestation each year by our actuaries from the healthcare brokers. It's going to be done automatically through our ProAct prescription providers. So we'll get the subsidy back that we normally do, plus we think it's going to be another $60,000 to $70,000 a year to use what they call the EGWIP
Right.
subsidy program.
But there's going to be some pre-authorization required. Is that changing? Is that a change?
This is something where the retirees have agreed to work with us on that, and we're grateful that this is a concession that they made to help the city.
And the estimate is about a 2% disruption.
There's also provisions for those that are disrupted. There's an alternative mechanism to make sure that their needs are taken care of.
Yes.
To protect them.
Plus, we won't have to pay $7,500 a year to the new retiree drug subsidy advisors. They're called Part D advisors.
Mm-hmm.
That cost went up from $2,000 with KeyBank to $7,500 with Part D advisors. So this will be the last year we have to pay for that. So we'll save that plus the estimate is between $60,000 and $70,000 on additional subsidy from federal government.
So that sounds like a total savings of roughly $150,000 from those two categories.
Yes, because the Excellus cost was going to be remain about the same, but simply prescriptions to provide a 0-10 copay to the retirees was going to increase the cost above what traditional blue costs now. So there was no sense continuing to go ahead with that Excellus/simple prescription plan.
Mr. Mark, since you have the floor, will you also tell us the amount of money we've budgeted expecting cost overruns in healthcare? I know we put aside a certain amount of money. Was that also $150,000?
I don't know. I'll send you the budget tomorrow.
Okay.
For the healthcare costs. And I
Okay.
think it's about $4.3 million in the general fund as opposed to $3.6 million for the last 2 years budgeted.
Say that again, please.
Past 2 years it's been budgeted at $3.6 million in the general fund, and it's been running $4.3 million in actual costs. So we've budgeted $4.3 million in actual costs in 2018.
This year, and then didn't we also put aside a smaller amount of money expecting that the cost may be even greater?
No.
In our 5-year budget plan, we allowed for possible overruns, if you recall. That's right.
Yeah. So it's possible that the savings from this move may actually take care of that this year.
Perhaps.
That would be nice.
And
That's what I was leading up to, the point I wanted to make. So.
Yeah, we had to budget more last year, 2017, twice, to try
Yeah.
to catch up to the actual costs, and we still didn't.
Yeah.
And to give some credit where credit's due, very early in 2017, members of the city, including some city councilors and the Retirees Association, some experts, and Rod Sherman, which I don't believe is in your association, but he assisted us. We all got together, and it was Rod Sherman who came up with the observation that if we properly calculate out the true cost of the Blue Cross Blue Shield package, if we do a thorough analysis, we may find that that is the optimal plan. So subsequently, we hired a new company, Burnham and Associates, who gave us what we felt was better analysis. And I think we all, anybody who's part of that process, concluded that that seems to not only protect the retirees as they wish, but also protected the taxpayers at the same time. So, you know, it's no fun to have gone through all these many years of this, but I said to my colleagues a few moments ago, there should be no pride in politics. If we find out that there's a better way of doing stuff, we should be able to go back and reflect on that and do the analysis over again. And I think that's what's brought us to this point. And I am grateful for having the opportunity to sit down with experts and people from both sides to have those discussions Because if we hadn't, we probably would have just kept in that old style, duking it out for too long and incurred greater legal fees for both the city council and the taxpayers and the association itself. So I think that this is an imperfect system, but the outcome is as perfect as we could have hoped for. Just, it's been painful for all concerned. So I'm confident actually that the retirees will be well represented by this, and the taxpayers will as well. And it would have been nice if we realized that perhaps a couple of years ago, but here's where we are now. So. Any other questions or comments? Do you feel you're prepared to vote? Mm-hmm. Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Abstain.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the City of Plattsburgh hereby satisfies the judgment in the litigation captioned as Farrington Peters versus City of Plattsburgh, index number SC-112-17 and SC-113-17 respectively, and authorizes payment thereon in amount of $2,159.80 to Mr. Farrington and $757.83 to Mr. Peters.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Kretzer. Discussion, please. Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign Boyajian retainer agreement for opioid litigation.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion?
I'm sorry, who did?
Kelly. For those of you in the public who may be wondering what this item's about, this is to ask the City of Plattsburgh to join in essentially a class action suit that will see if we can protect some of the people who've suffered harm from the opioid problem as a consequence of over provision of opioid drugs by manufacturers and providers. Something that every rural community in the country has been suffering from, and many are now bandying together to see if there can be some redress to help us with the very significant cost of this problem. Is that not your report?
Yep.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign First Light fiber pole attachment agreement between the City of Plattsburgh and TVC Albany Inc., DBA First Light Fiber.
Moved by Councilor McFarland and seconded by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves amending Appendix 243-A taxicab rate zone table of Chapter 243 of the Code of the City of Plattsburgh. The rate table has been distributed to council and is available as part of the minutes of this meeting.
Moved by Councilor Kretzer and seconded by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion?
Was there any discussion about, was there fears of people moving to like Uber and Lyft with the taxi increase?
I believe it's still under the fare, even with the increase of what Uber drivers are charging. Wasn't, I believe even with the increase, it was still slightly under.
That's
So
my
there really
understanding.
wasn't too much of a fear, I don't believe.
No.
Further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
No.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolution authorizing settlement of property assessment cases filed by McDonald's Corporation and Franchise Realty Interstate Corp. Whereas McDonald's Corporation and Franchise Realty Interstate Court petitioners filed Article 7 real
I'd like to
property
make a
assessment.
motion to waive the reading and move the resolution, please.
Moved by Councilor Custer, second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Discussion on the resolution itself.
I would like to ask exactly how much of a reduction in revenue this amounts to for the city.
I was just doing a kind of the back of the envelope calculation. These numbers are roughly correct. Say about a $500,000 reduction will translate into around $5,000–6,000 reduction in property taxes per year. I think the reduction in total assessment is a little bit less than $500,000, if I recall. That's a ballpark. It will require us to also give 2 refunds totaling somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 or $4,000 back as expressed here. Actually, I think the refunds may be stated here, but we did check with our assessor. As you know, the policy of the city is to firmly stand by our appraisals and assessments, and he was comfortable with a range which we were able to settle within.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
No travel requests at this time. Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Seeing none, is there any new business or additional council reports? Councilor Kretzer?
It was just more of a comment. It was exciting to find out 2 days ago that the North Country received some money from the governor of New York through the Restore New York Communities Initiative. The city of Plattsburgh received $1 million, which would go towards the demolition of several surplus structures at 26 Green Street in downtown Plattsburgh, which would generate a developable parcel of land. So it's exciting news. It's part of $6.4 million coming to the North Country. And I'd just like to thank Paul DeDominicus and Joel Wood and their office for putting this grant together and submitting it, and really grateful that Matthew Miller is here to be able to continue all the administration that will be involved with making this happen, and it's more good news for the city.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I just want to remind the council, as per the email I sent out regarding our digestion of the parking study that we approved. And I'll be contacting you to find out about how to coordinate meetings in order to sit around in groups of 2 or 3, ask questions, come closer to ideas for actual proposals. And there will be I'm not calling for that now, but the projected date for a public hearing for the acceptance of any plan that we might come up with will be around April 9th. And the 17th through 19th of April, we hope to make John Forster, the author of our study, available to council and to the public to answer any questions. So I will be firming up any plans for meetings with you through email during the next week.
Thank you.
And thank you for Matt Miller's help in organizing all this.
Thank you. Councilor Dobbin?
Can I ask how the, now that the finance office is on the main campus, so to speak, how that is being received?
Well, I've
they
answered
did
a
it last
couple of
week.
questions of people walking by looking for where City Hall is. We don't have 41 City Hall. We don't have a nameplate or an address plate on the front of our building.
We don't have a 911 out front?
It's called the historical marker.
Okay.
And then a poor woman had to make it all the way up the stairs, was it yesterday or the day before, only to find that she had to then go downstairs to the new finance office, but fortunately her elevator has been newly reconditioned, so she made it down safely, and it opens right up into the new finance office. I've checked with the people who are in those offices. Of course, they've been completely renovated, much to the credit of the DPW staff that did much of the work down there, and it looks excellent down there. There's now safety glass, really modern counter space, I think even more counter space,
Yeah, I think
pardon me,
so.
that even existed before. And
Looks good.
our Chamberlain has now officially moved down there, so we're all the finance entities are now in the same building right now, so.
Is
Took
it
us a
possible
bit
that we may
longer
be
than
able to
we,
put up a
thought
small
at first,
sign?
But I'm very grateful that it's all done, and there's still one issue. At certain times of the year, there is some puddling just outside of the door on the north face of the building, which is the main entrance next to the finance department. And DPW has a plan to redo the sidewalk there a little bit to prevent that puddling and make sure it's safe for and accessible, especially for those that have some sort of wheelchair access need.
And the budgeting expense for the move and the AC and the counters and all, is that being?
None of that is budget.
This is something Tim Ryan said believed he would be willing to compensate for us, but remember that we're also anticipating over $40,000 per year savings from doing this move.
Right. And is there any activity on the sale of Mr. Tracy's building?
Bill's not here,
Right.
but he is completing a survey for that property and has come up with a price, although he wants to refine that price by getting an appraisal done. He believes the value of it is somewhere between $400,000 to $500,000. Of course, that's property owned by the municipal lighting department.
Is there a possibility we may be able to put a small sign outside the side entranceway, which directly leads to the new finance department's offices?
That's an excellent idea, and the public needs to know also there's a convenient drop-off box that can be accessed from their vehicle along Trinity Square here. And we are also putting in place automatic bank transfer costlessly to our clients so they can have the convenience of doing their bill paying from home as well.
Maybe McDonald's would be interested in that downtown location.
Yeah.
I do have a question about the South Platte Park. Are we doing anything with that anymore? I know we were, then we weren't. We had budgeted, gee, 1480, 20,000. We took the stairs out. The bathroom was supposed to get renovated, and then that all just
That's
went
still
away.
work in process. Okay? We got some other things we have to do with the field. We had an individual drive a truck over the field last night. Got it all up, so that's more there.
But I know it's not in the 18 capital budget plan, but it used to be in the 17. And people have asked, I mean, what's become of that? It's just taken out of the budget and gone away, is it? Till better times come along, is it?
Must be
Must be, okay. So there's no immediate plans for that?
nothing
Okay.
capital projects, no. All the projects that were there were done and have been, funds have been borrowed.
Right.
That
You-
we just put in place, the 8.9 million covered projects back to 2012 all the way to 2017.
Right, because that goes back to 2012, that budget plan for the park.
Yeah, the projects were initiated but never started.
I noticed some were, some of the city park upgrades.
I think a fence was improved there.
Well, this was also the Penfield Park, South Platte Park, city park upgrades, just a general. I mean, we had a tidy sum of $375,000 out on that with a fund advance of $375,000. But I know that it seems it was started by the stairs coming out. And that
Yeah,
just
was
went away.
part of the plan to replace the stairs, or were they just to simply
Yes, there
remove
was
them?
supposed to be a
Yeah.
replace upgrade of the stairs that consistently went $14,000 for 5 years. Restroom building replacement, $80,000 for 5 years. The basketball court repaved, $20,000 for 5. Dugouts, I mean, there was quite quite a plan for there at one time.
For which we're paying.
They're not there anymore,
What's not?
those
This-
projects.
Projects aren't, but it's the expense. Projects aren't there, but are the expenses still there for the?
The expense to maintain the park, yeah.
Well, I mean, to do all
The
that.
capital cost
Mhm.
to renovate those things,
No,
no.
no, okay.
It's not budget.
But wait a minute, let me just try to, I think I'm keying in on your point. When they were approved, we financed the amount, no, okay. Okay, good,
We didn't borrow any money.
great.
It wasn't spent.
Was that where you were going?
In 2011, when we borrowed $1 million too much based on what we were told was going to be done in 2011 and wasn't done. So we stopped borrowing ahead. We started waiting to see what was actually spent on these projects because they were started and they would drag on and on. And
Yes. I
However, it
remember.
remains to give the appearance of such, does it not? Would you say that it remains to give the appearance of the expenditures?
I'm not sure what you mean. That's,
Well, I'll show this to you after, we'll discuss this after. I just,
the projects that were there, that were supposedly open and going to be spent, they're closed. They're not going to be spent.
Okay, gotcha.
Anything that was spent on them has
Mhm.
been borrowed,
Mhm.
put in place.
Mhm.
And I can give you a list of what we, borrowed the $8.9 million for last year. Covers projects from 2012 to 2017. Some rec complex,
right.
some parks and recreation items.
Yeah, I'll take that list. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Any additional reports? Seeing none, this is an opportunity for the public to please come address the council on any issues of mutual concern.
My name is Chris Blow. I'm Vice President of PCRA, as most of you know. And I just wanted to thank you for your willingness to put an end to this litigation over 2.5 years. Excuse me, almost 2.5 years. And for your almost unanimous vote, very much appreciated. Richard, thank you for your input as well. Obviously, you're well paying attention.
Trying to.
And
Trying to catch up to the questions when we don't know what they're going to be.
yeah. Well, anyway, thank you very much, and we look forward to implementing the agreement and getting the undertaking released and getting these monies back to these folks and get back to our retirements. Thank you very much.
Thanks for working with us. Any other individuals, please come address the council.
So, I want to speak today as an individual. I'm not representing or speaking on behalf of any groups tonight. These views that I'm about to express are my own. I want to speak about ethics in government, which is rather boring to some, maybe compared to the exciting digital issue of cryptocurrency mining we've discussed recently. We need to put a discussion and consideration of ethics in our city on the front burner rather than on the back burner, especially as we start to implement the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, which is a pretty sizable grant for our small city. When cities are redeveloped, and particularly when the developments are large in scale, like what is proposed with the DRI, there are inevitably going to be winners and losers. Not everyone will benefit equally. The effects of such projects are not uniform. Consider the case of reshuffling parking downtown to make way for a large-scale development on Durkee Street that the community never said they wanted in the first place. Even if there is no net loss of parking downtown-wide, with a parking reshuffle, some property owners will benefit more than others when this rearrangement happens. Some properties will be closer to a newly increased parking supply, and some will be further away from ample parking. Maybe this difference in benefit will be small. Maybe it will be big. It's hard to say at this stage in the planning process. Another example is the differential impact of construction on downtown properties when construction is actually underway. The negative impacts of projects are never uniformly distributed throughout downtown. They will certainly affect some property owners and businesses more than others. Given this, it's really important for public officials to stay neutral and objective during such a redevelopment. The public official doesn't want to give off the appearance that certain properties are favored over others, and it's hard enough to go through this whole redevelopment process and DRI process with all the change and construction and differential impacts they'll have as it is. The public is already rather concerned that the DRI to date has not been steered in the public's interest. We need to make sure moving forward that this public money is managed transparently, that conflicts of interest are avoided, and that our city's development is carried out in line with the will of the public. Given all this that I just said, and all the controversy surrounding the DRI and the big lift we have ahead of us, I was really shocked to find out that the mayor has purchased a downtown building through his Champlain Wine Company LLC earlier this month in March. It would be one thing if the mayor already owned the building all along, but to purchase it in the middle of the DRI within a DRI investment zone is another matter altogether. Think about it. Some property owners and businesses on Bridge Street are nervous about their future right now because, as it stands, their parking supply in the immediate vicinity will be substantially reduced. Some have had plans to renovate their apartments, and some have had plans to even construct new apartments, but have halted these investments until there's more clarity around the issues of parking. Businesses and properties around this Bridge Street area will also likely bear the brunt of disruption caused by construction as well, and especially around the Durkee Street parking lot. Meanwhile, the mayor's new building will be very close to proposed expanded parking supply from nearby Court Street and the Government Center. Again, even if these potential differential impacts turn out to be minimized as plans are amended and as projects are implemented, the fact is right now things have just gotten even more messy and complicated and controversial than they have to because the mayor went ahead and purchased this building. To me, there is at least the appearance of a conflict of interest here, and I ask the council as the independent check and balance and legislative branch that's supposed to check the executive branch to determine the best way to handle this issue moving forward. And I'd just like to close and remind everyone that conflict of interest don't just pertain to matters where there is where an individual government official receives a direct financial or material benefit from a government project. They also concern indirect financial or material gains from projects. So, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Councilor McCarty, second by Councilor Armstrong. Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Oh, yes.
Counselor Cretzer?
Yes.
Thank you folks for coming tonight.
We're having dessert last. Okay.